they don't want to go to Dota 2 because they have such an investment. It's just like that classic WoW player that has subscribed to World of Warcraft for 5 years. It's hard to turn away. It's just like that Dungeon Keeper 2 player or that Candy Crush mobile player who has poured money in every day. It's hard to turn away. It's just like being in a relationship with a girl for 5 years, or a guy if you're a girl. It's hard to just be like, goodbye. There's so much love and emotion and attachment and history with these kinds of things. It's all one big game to get us attached to the idea that we should not give up on a product, that we should not give up hope for Star Citizen or League of Legends or Dota 2.
He talks a lot. Yes, he's a big YouTuber. I don't think he played this game at all.
Planet. They want us.
Yes, this game is totally worth $60. So.
Makers want us to stay playing their game. They want us to continue to invest our time and our money into a game. And they will do anything to get us to this point. And I think Star Citizen has been designed, honestly, if you want me to be candid, it has been designed with this theory. And
he talks too much.
It's not.
He's not playing this game at all. Yes, he's still online, but they can be streaming for many hours. I think he's tried to load all his cars. He load all his cars into cargo bay.
Jesus. The fuck is my car doing?
Tumbrel land systems. System check.
Alright, just gotta make sure that I can still walk here. Okay, good enough. This one's kind of twitching. I don't like it. Why is it doing that? Yes, you absolutely should use F4. So whenever I put it there, it starts acting weird. So I'm just gonna put it more forward. I will keep it over here.
Yes. You have to put all his cars inside. So let's watch this Hammerhead. I think we did watch this. Yes.
Once did I say the space is either too large or too small. That's because I really feel that the size of the hallways and the spaces within the ship are very well done. They seem just right for the crew that would be running up and down the hallway. Speaking of the crew though, now let's check out the quarters that they will be occupying during long missions. Here we arrive at the crew quarters. You'll note here, specifically where the beds are concerned, that the light temperature has once again changed. Now this is no 600i, it does still need to take into consideration the occupant's psychological health, especially on very long missions, and so I very much appreciate the softness of this room that's been employed. The 45-degree edge corners, the soft padding on the interior of the bed and on the walls, the much warmer color temperatures where the beds are. All of these things are compounding to really make this area feel different and much more intimate than the other parts of the ship. I also think it's noteworthy to talk about how the space is just sized correctly. It's not too big and it's not too small, it's just enough for the 8 crew members who will be occupying it. I also really appreciate that this shower room is separate from the toilet room on the other side. It's something that I personally like to include on many of my residential home designs because I like to give the user the opportunity to use both spaces simultaneously. It also feels subconsciously better to clean yourself in a space where you're not also using the bathroom. And more practically speaking, it does remove the smell of the toilet from the area where you're taking a shower. Also present here is the materiality that really sells that this is a military vessel. The steel surfaces really bringing home that this space could be hosed down in case they needed to clean it quickly. So it's interesting that they employed a programmatically luxurious idea of separating both toilets and showers, but the materiality still suggests a utilitarian and military vessel. But it's always good to have some level of luxury, even to the most utilitarian of designs. But now we step into the most aft section of the ship, the stern. Although the Hammerhead is large, it certainly isn't the biggest ship in the game, and therefore some spaces had to be hybridized. This cargo room also contains the dual engines on either sides, those big glowy things that are spitting off snow for some reason. Cancer-inducing internal nuclear winters aside, this space is very dramatic once again, but I think the designers overlooked one major problem. And that's if you open the door in this space, you depressurize the entire ship. I'm not sure if they're going to make these yellow blast doors operable in non-emergency situations, but I really hope they would have doors like this that go over here into one of the turrets in every section where you can open a door to the exterior. Because although this is definitely intentioned for planetary use, it's not always going to be the case that the planet you land on has a atmospheric pressure similar to that of what's inside the ship. It just seems like an explosive decompression waiting to happen. In conclusion, though, I do find this space to be a very special one. It definitely is very dramatic, and it finds its success through the, again, successful application of the design language established by Aegis. Again, with the color palette here that's consistent throughout the entire ship, but also the exposed mechanicals. It's basically saying to you, it doesn't care that you can see all these components. It doesn't care about your comfort. What it cares about is performing its duty, and that is to be a warship. And it does this very successfully. Again, look at these warning labels. Again, look at all of these wonderfully detailed exposed mechanicals. It really does sell the idea that this is indeed a spaceship, even if these things aren't actually real. One of the things that really bothers me here, though, and that's a bit of cognitive dissonance, is the idea that they have EVA suits here, but again, no airlock door. If you open that big door in the bottom to have to use those EVA suits, you depressurize the entire ship. So I really hope that they do introduce some real airlock doors, at least make those doors that connect to the hallways where the crew will be occupying, presumably without EVA suits, closable. That way we don't vent the ship. And I will remind you guys, for those of you watching this and are new to Star Citizen, that depressurization will in fact be in the game in a future update. So having that happen will in fact kill you in the future. But now we move to a really exciting part of the ship for those of you who are engineers. That is, of course, the engineer station here overlooking the main engine bay and cargo bay. Design-wise, it's very consistent once again with the design language, but also very much in form. You'll notice that the glass that overlooks the bay is at a 45-degree angle. This language of form very much echoes the Hammerhead's bridge, as you'll remember that those glass panels are also 45'd. On the second deck, though, you'll notice that there is an inconsistency of design. There's a sealable airlock door here that seals off the crew area of the ship from the engineering section, which could be decompressed.
Yes, but there's many ships. I saw another one. Constellation. I think I did add this. Is Star Citizen. Let's try this one. Yes, of course, go and watch the video yourself. There's more I cannot say that, I'm not English. More Pohulogis. I cannot pronounce that. That's another one here.
this is a different kind of beauty. Nothing like the 600i. In fact, I would say perhaps even the opposite. Hey guys, I'm Morphologist, and in this video of an Architect Reviews, I'm going to be using my skill set as an architectural designer to take a look at the Constellation series by RSI. Now, this review has presented somewhat of a challenge for me. You see, the Constellation series, unlike the 600i, were designed for utility, not for luxury or visual beauty. And so, picking out the issues with it are at first not very apparent until you take a closer look. And so the way I shall rate the success of the Constellation shall be completely based upon how successful is it as it relates to the functions stated by RSI. So, without further ado, let's get started. Excluding special edition versions, there are 4 different variants of the Constellation currently available. The Aquila, which is the exploration...
Yes. Go and make some French fries. And I will watch the video myself, so let's look. The live stream from King Kong, that's live stream.
Not
He still tries to get all his cars inside. I'll go in my kitchen. I have some French fries. I have to put in my stove.
Alright, now I'm in jail. Can I get in the other sides of the seat by doing this? I think so. Fuck, I can't. Yeah, it is too tight. Fuck my life. Why can't I just climb over these cars? Like, seriously, man. You can't. They're too low to crawl under. I've tried that. No, you can't. I need to move this. I need to move both cars. Yeah, I don't know. There just isn't. Not yet, at least. I'm gonna put this one a bit forward. So I'm gonna do it like, we're gonna have to find a solution. I just need to back them in one by one. Now I put this one in first. I want to just put it as much as possible on the sides. Like even kind of on the chairs there. That's fine. That way I save some space. Now this one. taken off. And now the last one. Why did you get in between them, man? Oh, God. Hold on, this one I'm actually gonna put a little bit over here. Actually, no, I am gonna put them right next to each other. Yellow. Wow, I can't believe I just said YOLO. That was so uncalled for. So now we have enough room for sitting as well, in case you want to sit. Oh, you can actually sit there. Nice. Alright, now these bad boys. I hope you're not. I wouldn't. I hope it doesn't kill you. Okay, now we can still get there. I think. It's really important that mobility remains
So,
constant.
back. Still loading all his cars.
We're not just parking and making it impossible to use the.
I'm not gonna watch that. Let's watch. I think it was this one.
Version, the Andromeda, which is the militia gunboat version. Then you have
Who's online? Yes, that's this King Konger. I'm watching for someone else to get online.
the Phoenix, which is the luxury version, and finally the Taurus, which is just for hauling. Now, I know it might be a little confusing, but the ships in the background are just the Andromeda and the Aquila because the other ships have not yet been released to the live servers of Star Citizen. Luckily for this review, it really doesn't matter because the Andromeda and the Aquila only have very minor differences in terms of paint jobs, loadout, and the front canopy being really the most noticeable difference. So for the sake of sanity, we're going to be taking a look at the Aquila's interior only. Now, I know some of you understand that the Phoenix is going to be very different as it's going to be the luxury version. Well, don't worry, we'll come back and give that ship a special review. So let's begin on the bridge of the Aquila. Now, one of the really exciting things about the Constellation is just how different the design language is from all other ships.
Constellation
the interior is
ship.
very angular, with very few parallel lines. Everything is very exposed to the connections of the panels, the way the seats are connected to the floor, and it all just gives me a sense that things were actually thought out in the way that they were put together and assembled. It gives a bit more reality and weight, I feel, to the design of the interior of the Constellation series. Now, since we're here at the front, the canopy really is, for me, one of the biggest issues in this part of the ship. The visibility is really hampered by those front two bars, which sit directly in your line of sight. Now, I understand that there's some structural design idea behind this to designate it as an RSI ship over others, but I think there's a lot more design language in the Constellation series that separates it from other ships that this isn't really necessary. Definitely think there's a way to design it where the struts are still there, but they're not directly in the way. I believe this is a case where design language kind of gets in the way of functionality, and that's where I draw the line. Once design starts hampering the user's experience negatively, then it's no longer successful design. Oh, and the Andromeda? Well, it's actually a bit worse. So, if the Constellation series is ever reworked, I definitely think the canopy should be at the top of that list. Now let's move to the midsection of the Constellation, where we can see one of the more unique aspects of these series of ships. In all variants, there's a bottom and top turret of varying functionality. Quite like the way that you access them, it's very user-friendly and easy to understand. And one of the good things I think about the Aquila design is that they decided to replace the top turret with a directional sensor package that allows people to scan down planets and possibly also scan down cloaked targets. If you think about the programmatic use of the Aquila as an exploration vessel, it makes a lot of sense. But there are definitely elements of the Aquila that definitely don't make sense, and we're going to come back to that later. One of the things I really love about the design of the turrets on the Constellation series, though, is that there are doors that cover them when they're not in use. This makes a lot of sense because it protects them from oncoming fire in the case that you were not prepared for an engagement. Additionally, it allows a way for you to seal off the ship in the unfortunate event that one of the turrets is blown off, which unfortunately does happen. Now we're in the bottom turret, and this is where we start seeing some problems. I have no idea why they elected to make the turret mounted in this fashion. It's not an aircraft, it's a spaceship, and there's no up and down in space. I'd be much better served flipped the other way around so that I can actually see targets that may be below us in the case of the ship. Now, below is, again, relative, but that would be underneath my current seating position. As you can see, the guns actually do not rotate down directly below the turret, which means that if somebody flies directly below me, I can't actually engage them, let alone see them. So let's hope that this is one of the things that they reconsider in the next iteration of the Constellation series. Now, the last thing I want to talk about before we move on to the midsection of the ship is a really strange design choice on the floor of the bridge. If you look, there's a gigantic electrical cable running directly over the floor plates to the other side of the ship. Now, this looks to me to be a gigantic tripping hazard, and it could just as easily have been put underneath the floor. Now, I understand that this was put here because it looks cool, but I think, again, there's a limit to looking cool when it starts to impede on functionality, and this is definitely one of those cases. But now, let's move on to the midsection of the Constellation. We now find ourselves in the living section of the Constellation. And to me, I think it has one of the more creative solutions to a problem in the Constellation, and that's how do you access the exterior without decompressing the interior? Well, the way they've done it here is allowing the lift to lower midway to close the doors and then open the bottom. This, in effect, creates a compact version of an airlock and has the added bonus of preventing you from accidentally killing your crewmates by boiling their blood inside of their bodies. Yeah, not a pretty sight. The other things I find to be very successful aside from the lift is the consistency of language. Just as it was on the bridge, in the back here everything is laid bare for me to see. There are exposed screws and panels and everything looks like it has a function, even if it doesn't. If I pulled on a module there, a wire here, things probably would stop working, and that gives the